You've been told a lie, not an obvious one, not something you'd immediately reject. A quiet lie, repeated so often that it starts to feel like truth. That if you want to become wealthy, you need more. More income, more effort, more hours, more hustle. Wake up earlier, stay up later, stack multiple streams of income. Turn your evenings into side projects, turn your weekends into work, and maybe, just maybe, you'll finally get ahead. But here's the uncomfortable reality no one likes to admit. Most people who follow that path don't get rich, they just get tired, because the problem was never a lack of effort. It was a misunderstanding of how wealth actually works. Right now, millions of people are doing everything they were told to do. They went to school, they got the degree, they found a stable job, they work hard, they earn more than ever before, and yet they feel stuck. Every year, life gets a little more expensive. Rent goes up, groceries cost more, owning a home feels further away than ever. You're earning more, but somehow it still doesn't feel like enough. So naturally, you assume the answer must be to earn even more. Another promotion, another job, another income stream, because that's what everyone around you is saying. But if earning more was the solution, then high earners would all be financially free. And they're not. In fact, many people making six figures are still living paycheck to paycheck. They have bigger houses, but bigger mortgages, better cars, but larger payments, higher salaries, but even higher stress. They didn't escape the system. They just upgraded their version of it. And at the same time, there are people you would never expect, quietly building real wealth. No flashy businesses, no viral success, no endless grind, just ordinary jobs. Teachers, engineers, office workers, people who don't look rich, don't act rich, and don't chase attention. But over time, they become millionaires. Not overnight, not dramatically, but inevitably. And here's what makes this so frustrating. Their path is not hidden. It's not secret. It's not even complicated. It's just boring. So boring that most people ignore it completely because it doesn't promise fast results. It doesn't give you excitement. It doesn't make you feel like you're getting ahead today. It asks for something much harder. Patience, discipline, consistency, things that don't trend, things that don't go viral, things that don't feel rewarding in the moment. And that's exactly why it works. Because while everyone else is chasing faster ways to win, these people are quietly building something that actually lasts. They don't rely on motivation. They rely on systems. They don't chase opportunity after opportunity. They stick to one path long enough for it to work. And most importantly, they understand a simple truth that most people never fully accept. Wealth is not built through intensity. It's built through consistency. Not in days, not in weeks, but in years. And the earlier you understand this, the earlier everything starts to change, because the goal isn't to work harder than everyone else. It's to stop playing a game that keeps resetting your progress. The real goal is to build a system that works even when you don't feel like working, a system that doesn't depend on your energy, your mood, or your time, a system that keeps moving forward quietly, in the background, every single day. And the best part is, you don't need a second job to build it. You don't need a breakthrough idea. You don't need to sacrifice your life just to escape it. There is a path, a simple, repeatable path that has already worked for millions of people before you. A path that doesn't look impressive in the beginning, but becomes unstoppable over time. And if you follow it, you won't just build wealth. You'll buy back something far more valuable, your time. Because the real definition of wealth is not how much money you make, it's how long you can live without needing to make it at all. And in this video, we're breaking down exactly how that happens. The boring way, the slow way, the way that almost nobody talks about, but quietly creates financial freedom every single day. So what does this boring path actually look like? Not in theory, not in motivational quotes, but in real life, step by step. Because this is where most people get lost. They understand the idea of saving money. They've heard about investing. They know they should be doing something, but they don't have a system. And without a system, nothing sticks. So let's strip this down to its simplest form. No hype, no complexity, no distractions. Just a repeatable process that works. It starts with something almost too obvious to take seriously. Spend less than you earn. That's it. That's the foundation of everything. And yet, this is where most people fail. Not because they don't understand it, but because the world around them is designed to make them forget it. Everywhere you look, you're being encouraged to upgrade your life. A better phone, a better car, a better lifestyle. And the moment your income increases, your expenses quietly follow. You don't feel richer. You just feel adjusted. This is called lifestyle inflation. And it's one of the biggest reasons people stay stuck for decades. Because no matter how much they earn, they never create a gap between income and spending. And that gap is everything. Because every dollar in that gap is not just money saved. It's a seed, a small piece of future freedom. And once you understand that, your mindset starts to shift. You stop asking, what can I afford? And you start asking, what is this costing my future? Because every unnecessary expense today is not just money gone. It's money that could have been working for you for years, maybe decades. Now, once that gap exists, even if it's small, the second step begins. Invest it, not occasionally, not when you feel confident, not when the market feels safe, every single month, automatically, without thinking about it. Because the biggest mistake people make with investing is treating it like a decision when it should be a habit, a fixed part of your life, just like paying your bills. Because the truth is, you will never feel ready to invest. There will always be uncertainty. The market will go up, then it will go down, then it will crash, then it will recover. And if you wait for the perfect moment, you'll spend your entire life waiting. The people who build wealth don't predict the market. They participate in it, consistently, quietly, without emotion. They invest when it's high. They invest when it's low. They invest when it feels pointless, because they understand something most people don't. The power is not in timing. The power is in time, because once your money is invested, something begins to happen that changes everything. Your money starts working. At first, it's almost invisible. You invest a few $100s. It grows a little, nothing exciting, nothing life-changing. It feels slow, almost disappointing. But under the surface, a powerful force is building. Compound growth. This is the engine behind the entire system. Your money earns returns. Those returns stay invested, and then those returns start earning their own returns again and again, year after year. And in the beginning, it feels like nothing is happening. Year 1, small progress. Year 3, still slow. Year 5, barely noticeable. This is the phase where most people quit. Because there is no reward, no excitement, no visible breakthrough, just patience. But then something changes. Around year 10, the growth starts to feel real. Around year 15, it starts to feel powerful. And by year 20, it becomes undeniable. Because at that point, your investments are no longer growing because of what you put in. They're growing because of what they've already become. Let that sink in. Your money is now doing more work than you are. And this is where the path separates. The person who stayed consistent and the person who kept starting over. Because while one person kept chasing faster results, jumping between strategies, stopping and restarting, the other just kept going. Same contribution, same system, same boring process, but with one difference. They didn't stop. Now let's make this real. Imagine you invest $500 every month. Nothing extreme. No sacrifices that change your entire life. Just consistency. With an average return of 8% per year. After 10 years, you have something. After 20 years, you have something meaningful. But after 30 years, you have something life-changing. Not because of how much you invested, but because of how long you stayed in the system. Increase that amount, just slightly, and suddenly you're crossing into 7 figures. Not through luck, not through brilliance, but through time. And here's the part most people overlook. You don't need a side hustle for this. You don't need to double your income. You don't need to work yourself into exhaustion. What you need is control. Control over your spending. Control over your decisions. Control over your consistency. Because retiring early is not about making extreme moves. It's about making small, correct decisions. Repeat it over and over again for long enough that they become unstoppable. And once that system is in place, something quietly begins to happen. Your dependence on your job starts to decrease. Your stress begins to fade. Your timeline starts to change. Because every month, every investment, every small decision is buying back a piece of your future, not all at once, but steadily, predictably, and most importantly, permanently. And this is exactly where most people break. Not at the beginning, not when things are confusing, but right here, when the system is finally working. Because at this stage, nothing feels urgent. You're investing regularly. You're spending a little more carefully. You're doing everything right. But your life hasn't dramatically changed. You're not rich yet. You're not free yet. And from the outside, it doesn't even look like progress. This is the dangerous middle, the point where discipline is required, but excitement disappears. And for most people, this is where doubt starts creeping in. They start asking questions. Is this really working? Should I be doing more? Am I falling behind? And then they look around. They see someone making fast money online, someone flipping businesses, someone trading stocks and posting wins, and suddenly, their slow, steady path feels wrong. Too simple, too quiet, too slow. So they start to drift. They stop investing for a few months. They move money around. They chase a new strategy, not because their system failed, but because they got impatient. And this is the trap. Not failure, but interruption. Because the boring path doesn't collapse all at once. It gets abandoned, slowly, one decision at a time, one distraction at a time, until years of potential progress simply disappears. And what makes this even more frustrating is that the alternative paths rarely work. They promise speed, they promise excitement, they promise shortcuts, but most of them lead to the same place, starting over again and again, because fast money is unpredictable. It depends on timing. It depends on luck. It depends on conditions you can't control. But the boring path depends on one thing: you, your behavior, your consistency, your ability to stay when nothing exciting is happening. And that's why so few people succeed with it. Not because it's hard to understand, but because it's hard to stick with. Because humans are wired for reward. We want to see results now. We want confirmation that we're on the right path. We want progress we can feel. But this path doesn't give you that. It gives you something else. Certainty. If you follow it long enough, it works. Not maybe, not sometimes, but almost always. And yet, most people still walk away because certainty that takes time feels less appealing than uncertainty that feels fast. And that's the trade most people make without realizing it. They trade a guaranteed future for a chance at a quicker one. And in doing so, they reset their progress over and over again, while someone else, someone less distracted, less impatient, keeps moving forward, quietly, month after month, year after year, until one day the difference becomes impossible to ignore. Because this is the moment everything flips, the moment where your investments are no longer small, where growth is no longer slow, where your money begins to move on its own. And suddenly, what once felt boring starts to feel powerful. But by then, it's too late for most people to catch up because they never stayed long enough to reach that point. And this leads to the final shift, the one that changes everything. The people who retire early are not the ones who earned the most. They're the ones who needed the least. They didn't try to out-earn the system. They quietly reduced their dependence on it. They controlled their expenses. They avoided unnecessary debt. They built a life that didn't require constant financial pressure. And as a result, they didn't need millions to be free. They needed time, and they gave that time to their system. While everyone else was searching for faster ways to win, they were building something slower, but far more reliable. And eventually, that difference compounds, not just financially, but mentally. Because when your life costs less and your investments keep growing, something shifts. You stop feeling trapped. You stop feeling rushed. You stop making desperate financial decisions because you're no longer trying to escape overnight. You're already on your way out, step by step, month by month, year by year, until one day you realize something most people never experience. You don't need your job anymore. Not because you quit suddenly, but because you outgrew the need for it. Quietly, gradually, 15 years earlier than everyone else. And the strangest part of all is that when you look back, there was no single moment that changed everything. No breakthrough, no big win, no dramatic turning point. Just a series of small decisions, repeated consistently, for long enough that they became unstoppable. And that's the truth most people ignore. Wealth is not built in moments. It's built in habits, in patience, in consistency when nothing exciting is happening. So if you're waiting for motivation, for the perfect plan, for something that feels fast and exciting, you might be waiting forever. But if you're willing to choose the path that feels slow, the one that feels invisible in the beginning, the one that most people overlook, then you don't need to be extraordinary. You don't need perfect timing. You don't need a second life outside your job. You just need to keep going. Because in the end, wealth doesn't belong to the smartest, or the fastest, or the most talented. It belongs to the ones who stay, the ones who keep moving forward long after everyone else has stopped. And that is the boring path, the quiet path, the one that never goes viral, but changes everything for the people who follow it every single day.